I'm going to begin with a reading by Oriah, Mountain Dreamer. Just an excerpt. It doesn't interest me what you do for a living. I want to know what you ache for, and if you dare to dream of meeting your heart's longing. I want to know if you can sit with pain, mine or your own, without moving to hide it or fade it or fix it. I want to know if you can be with joy, mine or your own, if you can dance with wildness and let the ecstasy fill you to the tips of your fingers and toes without cautioning us to be careful, be realistic, remember the limitations of being human. It doesn't interest me if the story you are telling is true. I want to know if you can disappoint another to be true to yourself, if you can bear the accusation of betrayal and not betray your own soul, if you can be faithless and therefore trustworthy. I want to know if you can be alone with yourself and if you truly like the company that you keep in the empty moments. Can you be alone with yourself and truly like the company you keep? Thus ends the reading. Valentine's Day is a month away, and today we're talking about love. But not that kind of love. Because tomorrow, our national holiday, is celebrating the life of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And we're celebrating that kind of strong, powerful love that he demonstrated all through his life. Hard love. Love which demands a lot, which keeps us going in the middle of the night, love which returns again and again to help us live into the values of our humanness. It's the love which holds open hope and sees goodness, even in the darkest of times. We honor Dr. King today and remember how much he gave up to support and strengthen the civil rights of his fellow humans, even to the ultimate sacrifice of his own life. It's really inspiring, and we can't help but be grateful for the work of such a great man. But how does his life speak to us on this cold Sunday morning? I mean, sometimes I think we can admire him, but we maybe can connect more with Ron, who demanded to have a library card. Because that kind of greatness seems really far away from our own lives. He was bigger than life. But what can most of us give up for humanity? What can I be talking to you about this morning that would be inspiring enough to let us go out in the streets and have that kind of love? I'm going to say thanks to Scott for finding King's sermon and sharing it with me when he was talking about loving your enemy. Because what really spoke to me in that piece was he didn't say love your enemy because you're supposed to do it, because you should just do it. He didn't say it was something that you should force yourself to do, force yourself to love somebody that's even very unlovable. What he said was that if you look hard enough at any person, if you look hard enough into the whole of their being, you're going to find something that's in there, some bit of light that you can connect with. Some bit of light, even in the person that's being hurtful to you, that you can remember that you are connected with. Sometimes it's really hard to see. But the trick isn't forcing yourself. The trick is opening your heart as wide as it can be. And what I loved about King's preaching this Love Your Enemy sermon is it was way back the common psychology understood that everything we do as humans is trying to fill some lack inside. All the pain in this world, unless it's caused by chemical imbalance, has pain itself as its root, because hurt people hurt other people. So while it's easy to judge someone as a jerk or mean or evil and just write them off, that's the easy thing to do. It's easy to harden our hearts against somebody that's being harmful or hurtful. It's much harder to see the whole of that person and find that tiny, unloved child acting out, or see the accretion of pain spilling over into the world around them. The hardest thing is digging below the surface to find the truth that's underneath. And it's not just with our enemies. This little bit of advice goes through our entire lives because it works with loving ourselves too. Loving ourselves enough not to abandon our deepest truth of who we are and who we were born to be into this world. I have wrestled with Oriah Mountain Dreamer's invitation for a long, long time now. The full poem is much longer and asks a lot more questions, but the one that always catches at me, the one that always makes me see I'm not sure I can answer yes to is the one where she says, I want to know if you can disappoint another to be true to yourself. If you can bear the accusation of betrayal and not betray your own soul. Ouch. I don't know. I was raised to be a good girl, the person who never disappoints anyone. And I can be true to myself in so very many ways. But when my truth is in direct conflict with what is expected of me, especially by people I love, I don't know. Sometimes I give up on my truth and just do what's easiest to do. Because a lot of us have been socialized to do that, to put everyone else first, or at least someone else first. That's what good people do. But my family recently watched the Barbie movie together and really enjoyed it. Have any of you seen it, the Barbie movie? Yeah, there's a lot of nods, yeah. It was written and directed by fellow Unitarian Universalist Greta Gerwig. And we saw it at the theater last summer, but we just watched it again together as a family the other night. So I saw a whole bunch of things that I missed the first time. The first time, it's just this rush of color. But this time, I was really struck by the scenes where Gloria, the mom, played by America Ferrera, gives a brilliant monologue describing how hard it is to be a woman in our culture today. A tiny excerpt of it goes, you have to be thin, but not too thin. And you can never say you want to be thin, but you have to say you want to be healthy, but you also have to be thin. And you have to have money, but you can't ask for money because that's crass. And you have to be a boss, but you can't be mean. And you have to lead, but you can't squash anybody's ideas. And you're supposed to be a great love being a mother, but don't talk about your kids all the damn time. And it goes on a lot longer from that, but it's fabulous. And while she was speaking her truth to Barbie, this awakening happened within Barbie when she realized that she couldn't stay in despair for not being enough because nobody's enough. Nobody can live up to all the impossible expectations that are put on us as humans. Speaking that truth aloud broke Barbie and all the Barbies out of their like spell they were under by the patriarchy. But the amazing thing was that their being awakened allowed all the Kens to wake up too. It wasn't just about women being empowered. It was about empowering all humans to their fullest self. The deeper truth was, the truth will set you free. But as the bumper sticker goes, the truth will set you free, but first it's going to piss you off. So why did I bring Barbie into a sermon that was kind of going towards Dr. King? Because in another speech where Dr. King called The Other America, he said, we're going to discuss the race problem tonight, and I want to discuss it very honestly. I still believe that freedom is the bonus you receive for telling the truth. You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. That's taken from the Gospel of John, chapter 8, verse 31 and 32. So not a new idea. Greta Gerwig didn't come up with it. Some folks will say that we are living in a post-truth world. It's an Orwellian world where truth social is anything but. So today, in today's world, telling the truth, finding our truth, knowing our own truth, in a world of obfuscation and smokescreens, it can be the hardest work we ever do, isn't it? I mean, you can Google something, but you cannot trust that what you've Googled has brought you up something that's actually true. And so our work today is finding, first of all, our own truth. And then in that truth, finding ways to open our hearts and love despite what is going on around us? Can you disappoint yourself? Can you disappoint another to be true yourself? Can you do the really hard work of knowing your own deepest truth and then living it? I'll tell you a goofy story. When I was raising my kids, I would try really hard to be the good mom. The mom that never got angry or lost her temper with her children, right? They exist, I'm sure. But I would ask nicely, please don't do that. Please stop doing that. Please don't do that. Please stop doing that. And at some point, I would snap and go, stop doing that! And I never examined it, though. I never dug beneath to see what was going on there. I just kept trying to be this definition of a good mom in my head. And then when I lost it, I would just feel really incredibly guilty because I was not a good mom. So a whole lot of therapy, a whole lot of researching and reading and getting to know myself, I got a much clearer idea now of what was going on in that situation. I was afraid to set those boundaries up front with my kids. I was afraid that they might not like me if I was not nice to them all the time, or my just being a human being would not serve them in some way. And now I realize how goofy that is. But if at that time I'd been able to clearly state, I need you to not do this because of this, and these are going to be the consequences if you keep doing this, we might all have had a much better time. It gives them something to laugh at now when they look back at it, but still, that wasn't worth it. Because really, who suffered in all of that? I mean, I would feel terrible. They had already figured out that they could just keep doing whatever they wanted to do, and that I would yell at them, and then they'd stop, and they'd go on their merry ways, and I would be the one feeling inadequate and like a failure and like I wasn't able to be a good mom. But if I had been able to dig under that truth and really dig into it, it could have freed all of us from that cycle. If we do that truth digging, that truth telling in our lives, it can free us from a lot of cycles that we just pedal on through without examining. Because when John's Gospel or Dr. King or even that rascally bumper sticker says the truth will set it free, it doesn't mean that it's going to set it free for other people. It means that when we do the hard thing of loving our enemies, it's not for our enemies' sake, never. It's for our own hearts, for our own good. How do we do that thing, though? How do we get underneath the things that block us and keep us from seeing? Maybe just a regular practice, just like everything else. Like exercise, you got to keep doing a little bit every day. If you want to learn a language, you keep doing a little bit every day. If you want to learn how to know the truth of your own heart, you got to kind of peel back the layers every day in things small and large. Maybe we can just start with our response to politics. Are we really trying to find out all the different ways and all the different answers within a situation, or are we just going along with whatever our party says? We can look at our attitudes toward consumerism. Am I really needing to buy that shirt or that power tool or that throw pillow because I need it, or because it covers up some sadness or some lack that I feel in my body and my soul? And we can look to how we relate to our family members. Am I bringing my whole self? Or am I actually speaking my truth? And when I speak my truth, am I allowing them to bring their whole self as well? If I just brush over things and don't say when I disagree with my daughter, perhaps, we never get to that harder place. If I am brave enough to say, this is what I think, brave enough for her to go, bah, well, this is what I think, then guess what? We open up a deeper conversation that could ever happen if we just kept being nice to one another. We remember Dr. King tomorrow, a man who changed the course of history by listening to and acting from his heart. And while we remember all that he did to improve civil lives, the civil rights of African Americans, towards the end of his life, he realized, or he started to bring forth what he'd known, that we are all interconnected. And shortly before he was killed, he had been working on the Poor People's Campaign, on raising the awareness of how we are all hurt by the dangers of an overwrought capitalism, or by the industrial war complex, or by all those things that stop us from being who we truly can be. And some believe that's why he was really killed. It was okay if he was out there rabble-rousing for black people, because we could always keep them down. But if he got people to look beyond their prejudices and to examine their needs and their fears and realize how much we all have in common, well, then people of all different levels of melanin and classes might unite to overthrow this system that is so terrible and that really pushes every single one of us down. The Reverend Dr. King was a dangerous man. And each of us can be dangerous in our own way. We can see that we are connected to that web of life. And we can see that canceling each other or shaming each other or writing off huge portions of our population because they don't think like us actually weakens who we are as beings rather than strengthening who we truly want to be. But we have to be truthful with ourselves first, and we have to be clear. The hardest work, the hardest thing is looking for what's underneath what we just accept on the surface every day. The hardest thing we might ever do is believing that each and every one of us is loved, is lovable, and is able to be a loving, kind spirit out in this world. And from that vantage point, who knows what could change?